Welcome, folks, to the June 30th edition of the Woodland-Davis Clean Water Agency Board of Directors meeting. I recognize that I am joined by my colleague from the Davis City Council, Josh Chapman, my counterparts on the Woodland City Council, Rich Landsberg and Tom Stollard. I see Matt Dulcich is here in lieu of Camille. Is that right, Matt?
That's right, Will. Yeah, great to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you here, my friend. And so I'll go ahead and get the meeting started.
I did see Landsberg.
I said Rich was here.
Oh, thank you.
Rich is here. Oh, yeah, I wouldn't miss Rich. So I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Landsberg will move the agenda.
Moved by Rich. Is there a second?
Second by Chapman.
Thanks, Josh. So we have a motion and a second. Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Certainly. Chair Will Arnold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Richard Landsberg.
Aye.
Director Tom Stallard.
Aye.
Director Josh Chapman.
Aye.
So we have an agenda. At this time, I will ask for public comment. This would be general public comment for items not on the agenda. Have we received any public comment, or is there anybody here now that looks eager to make a comment?
No public comment received at the agency office.
Got it. Well, then I will close general public comment and move on to agency business. Item 1 is the consent calendar. That includes the meeting minutes from April, as well as the treasurer's third quarterly report. Are there any questions or comments on any of the consent items? Not hearing any, I will entertain a motion for consent.
Stallard moves.
Moved by Tom.
Landsberg will second.
Seconded by Rich. Michelle, will you read the
I will.
roll?
Chair Will Arnold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Richard Landsberg.
Aye.
Director Tom Stallard.
Aye.
And Director Josh Chapman.
Aye.
So that passes unanimously. That'll move us on to item 2, which is the GM update. Tim?
Okay, I'll start right now. Yeah, I'll try to keep this relatively brief because we do have a few other items on the agenda today. Next slide, please. 4 topics to kind of go over: the water supply outlook. There's not much good news there. Capital improvement, where we are with our various projects that we're working on at the agency, and operations update. I'm covering for Stan today because he is on vacation this week. And then update on where we are with our third-party O&M inspections. So water supply outlook, as you all know, this is a very dry year. The Term 91 curtailment of our primary water rights started April 29. A number got cut off. It should say 124. 124 days until October 31. So basically we're stretching our 75% of our CVP water right over a longer period than normal. What that means to us for the agency is that right now we're averaging right around 12.4 million gallons per day supply. If we didn't have a curtailment this year, we would be supplying around 27 million gallons every day. Last year at this time in summer months, we were supplying right around 20 million gallons per day. So just comparing last year to this year, we're currently supplying something like 60% of what we did last year. The partners' actual demands are a little over 30 million gallons per day. So we're quite a bit under right now what we've been used to. So talk a little bit about why in the next couple of slides. This is the board is used to seeing this slide. This is the 8-station index for Northern California supplies. Basically 8 gauging stations that feed into the Sacramento and American River systems. The average precipitation through today is 46% of average. We're the little blue line kind of just above the bottom. 23.1 inches. We are quite a bit below last year, and obviously significantly below average. And it kind of makes it worse. We're not going to be like the driest year on record, or not even the second driest year on record. But kind of what happened was that because we're 2 dry years in a row, last year was 60% of average. This year we're 46% of average. When the state had been counting on, the state and federal governments had been counting on a fair amount of the snowpack when it melted going into the reservoirs, because the snowpack was somewhere in the 60% of average range. When it melted this spring, it melted relatively quickly because we had a warm spell. I forget if it was April or May. It melted a lot of the snow relatively quick, but very little of that snow melt went into streams and then ultimately to reservoirs. So the reservoirs kind of count on a certain amount of this snow melt making it to the reservoirs, but it didn't happen. It just went into the ground instead. So we found in the later part of May that the system was essentially short almost 700,000 acre feet, which that then of course made a bad year worse. Effectively, this year is about the driest ever. It's really about the driest ever seen, not by amount of rainfall, but just by the impacts of 2 successive years of drought. So it's an interesting year. This is how Lake Shasta looks today. The top of the shaded area is the average rainfall amount, or the average storage level in the reservoir. The lighter green line and the lighter blue line are like 2 very wet years, is what can happen in Shasta in terms of storage. The red line in the bottom is the 1977 drought. That had been the drought of record. Might still be, I don't know. And the darker blue line is the current reservoir level. So it's tracking actually above the drought of record in 1977, but it's still only roughly 33 or 38% of capacity right now. So by the end of summer, that will look, pretty low. Next slide, please. I also included Lake Oroville. This one looks a bit worse. Oroville right now is above 32% of capacity. This one's trending just above the 1977 drought level. Probably will dip below that in the next couple of weeks. You may have seen in the news that Oroville will likely have to turn off their hydroelectric dam at some point in August, because water level will drop below their ability to produce electricity. I think that will be the first time since startup that they have to do this. So it's kind of an interesting situation. So kind of the combination, why I put these 2 slides in is the State Water Board a couple of weeks ago did do a curtailment of all post-1914 water rights. And within that notice they sent out, we get copied on it. Our primary water right got curtailed again. Doesn't really affect us because we've been curtailed since April. But what they did include in that curtailment was a warning that they will not be lifting the curtailment this fall until there's significant rainfall into the system. So it's something we already expected, but they actually put that in writing. I think it's about the first time I've ever seen that in writing. So we're definitely needing to look for additional water supplies both this summer and then most definitely for November, December this year. Next slide, please. We have made some progress on our capital improvements. This is a picture of the picture on the left is our crane. We have had a problem with our crane since construction of the joint intake in that it didn't quite reach the southernmost screen. We have 10 screens on the intake on the Sacramento River. Each screen section is 20 feet wide and 20 feet tall. They are constructed to fit very snugly within the rails, so that little fish can't get around them or get stuck within them. It turns out there are freshwater sponges in the river, other things that like to grow, barnacles or something that like to grow on the screen itself. So we do have to clean them every year to keep them clean and operating correctly. And the southernmost screen we could not ever lift because the crane was about 6 inches off from being vertical. And that little bit of misalignment meant that we could not lift the screen. So they actually moved the track, they actually removed the stop for the crane to allow it to go that 6 inches further towards the end of the actual track. And we're now able to lift that screen for the first time and clean the screen. So that's a picture of the screen on the right, kind of gives you a sense of scale. It's 20 feet wide and 20 feet tall. I think they're actually pressure washing it at that time. The next one we completed is we have had a slight leak since construction of the water pipeline to Davis. This is on an old irrigation turnout it's a City of Woodland irrigation turnout to a City of Woodland property that PCP leases for the tomato waste ground. And ever since construction, they had been complaining that there's water seeping out of this closed turnout into the field that they're working on. And we kind of spent a few years saying, is this really real? Turnouts leak. So we did some investigation last year. Yeah, it is leaking, and it's an old irrigation turnout. It's made of a couple different, it was made out of a couple different pipe materials. But also when you do construction, you can cause damage and create a seepage path for the water to get out and onto the field. So we couldn't quite determine really, is this a City of Woodland problem? Is it an agency problem? Because we did do construction there. Ultimately, the cost to fix it was like $6,300. We had Conway do that for us, and we decided the agency would just take care of it. It would be really, we would probably spend more money trying to prove if it was Woodland's problem because it's an old pipe versus agency problem because we put a new pipe right across it. So the agency just took care of it. Conway did it for us because it was by far the quickest and easiest and least expensive path. Most of the cost was the materials rather than the labor itself. We also had a really small window when we could do the work. We had to do it during garter snake active season and while the Conway irrigation canal was not filled with water. So there's only about a week or two in spring that you can do it and a week or two in fall that you can do this work. So we got that done 2 months ago. Next slide, please. We are working with RD 2035 to reach out to some contractors to do the erosion repair work at the joint intake. We're able to do that work after July of this year. We had to wait until after July 1 for fish spawning season to conclude. So we're working to try to find a reasonably priced contractor for that work. Two other things that we're working on. I think we have brought this up to the board in the past. We need safe roof access at the joint intake. There's a roof hatch that's something like 30 feet above ground level. There's a ladder to get up to it, but there's kind of a gap between the top of the ladder and access to the roof that we need to have. We need to have a safe access mechanism for people to get them through the roof hatch. And then the other item is probably the more urgent one really is realigning and replacing the screen cleaner wire at the joint intake. This is the mechanism that keeps our screens clean. It runs about once a day to wash off anything that may be stuck to our screen. There was a misalignment from construction, which is causing premature fraying and ultimately failure of the wire. If the wire were to fail before replacement, our screen cleaner would be lost to the river. So we do need to get that work done before that actually happens. So we're working on, we've been having some difficulty getting a quote to do the work. Not terribly expensive, but it's kind of difficult work actually. Okay, next slide. In terms of operations, in the month of May, we averaged right around 12.09 million gallons per day. Woodland's taking 6.8, Davis and UC Davis collectively taking around 6.2. That's basically our allocation with our reduced flows this year. Going forward, I think Davis had been underusing their allocation a bit to preserve a bit of water for the peak summer months. We do continue to meet all drinking water and contractual requirements. We do keep the agency's website up to date. We are using our CVP water rate and continuing to look for supplemental water supplies. The third-party inspection, I think that did happen last week. I was on vacation last week, but I think it was scheduled for last week to happen. And that's a third-party expert that we bring in every 5 years. So this is the first time that we're doing it to kind of make sure that CH2M Jacobs is operating the plant correctly. We want to make sure that the investments that we made in the plant, especially the expensive items like pumps, electrical controls, that everything's being maintained correctly, and we will get the full lifespan of those equipment. So we'll get the report probably by the September board meetings. We should get that report shortly. Next slide. Is there any questions on the GM or ops report? Okay, moving on to the budget report. I'll try to get
Thank
back.
you, Tim.
Okay, next slide, please. So budget overview. The final budget is not terribly different than what was presented in April. The only real changes that we made is we did find out from WAPA what the potential increase for electricity is going to be due to hydroelectric shortage this year. There's about a $300,000 add for electricity at the joint intake because WAPA will be buying on the market versus using their hydro plants because they can't really. And they're a direct pass-through agency, so we will be directly billed for the higher costs this year. And then ultimately, there wasn't the big change because we cut back how much water we're expecting to produce this year because it's going to be a long-term Term 91 and Shasta critical years in effect. So we actually cut back our expectation for water production. So we cut back costs for production of water, but then we increased it for electricity, and then both of those essentially canceled each other out overall. So on our overall budget, this is similar to every year. We have two main cost categories. O&M category, that's really related to the cost of treating and delivering drinking water, and then the associated oversight, permitting, water supply, agency administration, and our contingency. And then the other major category is debt reserve payments. That is from the SRF loans that the agency and its partners took out to construct our facilities. Next slide, please. This is a quick summary of the agency's overall budget. So the first one is the operation and maintenance category. It's about $8.7 million, kind of broken down by subcategories, as you can see on the screen. And then the debt and revenue, or the debt service payments, are about $10.6 million for a budget total of about $19.36 million. It's been very similar to this number for the past 4 years. Next slide. So I'll kind of walk through the categories real quickly. Under the O&M budget category, the vast majority of that is for direct operation and maintenance. Within that, about $4.4 million is the cost of the direct costs, fixed and variable costs of producing water. So this is the staff that work at the plant, all of the chemicals that we use, and just other operational expenses. And the next category is, the next largest category we have is the electricity and pass-through chemicals. That's about $2.6 million. Within that, if I remember correctly, it's about $2.3 million is the electricity. So we do spend a fair amount on power. And then about $300,000 for permitting fees, water rights fees, reporting requirements. Those three categories seem to be more work and more expense every year, and I think that's just going to continue for us. And then we did include about $90,000 for supplemental water purchase. That's for water purchase in November, for November water. And then we have a category for extraordinary expenses, just rather small things that come up that are a surprise. And then $200,000 for the joint intake erosion control improvements, and that's ultimately would be a shared expense with RD 2035. But we're reserving the full amount for the work in case we lead that effort and then they reimburse us. We're still trying to have them take the lead on it, and then we pay them as our preferred method of doing it. Next slide, please. Moving on for O&M budget, we have about $160,000 for O&M oversight, and this is the agency checking in that the CH2M Jacobs contract is being correctly followed. And then some various technical program support. There's various things that we work on to kind of just support the overall agency. And then we do actually spend a fair amount of time and money splitting the electric bill with RD 2035 and between the project partners. The WAPA billing process is pretty complex. They have like the regular monthly billing, and then they come back and there's always back charges. So we do that by flow between RD 2035, the agency, and then we split that up with the agency between the partners. So it's a fairly complex thing. It actually has its own budget category. And then the other item in there's a third-party inspection at the water treatment plant. Permits and water supplies, about $176,000. That includes water rights support. We do have, like Ryan Becerra, our attorney, helps us with water right acquisition, and Wes Yost does as well, in addition to Stan and myself. And then we're continuing to finalize the water supply analysis. And then there's a new state requirement that we do annual supply and demand assessment. I think it's a couple of $1,000s a year for this. It's just a new state regulation we have to comply with. Next slide. The next category is agency administration, just under 600,000. That's our budget category for agency secretary, general manager operations, general and operations manager, our treasurer and accounting services, legal counsel, property tax, legal counsel. The biggest single expense is insurance. And we have reached out to YC Permia, and I think we're going to try to work with them more closely. Our insurance has really increased in cost in the last couple of years, and we want to understand better why. Right now, the agency is paying pretty close to the same amount as the cities, and we don't have police or fire or any of that. Or parks or anything. We do have high value assets, but we only have a couple of assets. So we're going to try to work with YC Permia and understand why our insurance is as high as it is. We've never had a claim, so we'll try to understand that one better. And then there's other miscellaneous category that includes various support tasks, a couple organizational memberships we have in public outreach. We do maintain memberships in Aqua and Aqua. Those are two water advocacy groups, one for Northern California and the other one's more statewide thing. Next slide, please. And then this is the debt reserve payment category. This is the same every year. These are the final payments. I think we're in year 4 of paying these back now. There's a couple of differences between Woodland and Davis. Woodland is paying its reserve payment over 10 years. Davis pay theirs up front. That's a SRF obligation. And then there are some differences between the Woodland payment and the Davis payment. Woodland does have a slightly larger share of the water treatment plant, so our principal is a little bit higher. Woodland's principal is a little bit higher. But the main difference is the loan duration. Woodland has a 20-year loan, and Davis has a 30-year loan. So that's kind of the main difference between the two payment amounts. Next slide. So looking at a comparison between the 21-22 budget and our current budget year, they're actually very, very similar. Our current budget is 19.261 million. Proposed budget is 19.36 million. So it's really only $100,000 difference between the two. The main increase is there's a bit of an increase in O&M costs because inflation, chemical cost increases, electrical cost increases the biggest driver. And then we have some minor decreases in the other categories just for ongoing refinements to match what we actually do. Contingency is slightly higher just because the O&M category is slightly higher. And debt and reserve obviously are the same dollar amount. Currently, we are tracking to come in roughly $900,000 under budget for the current fiscal year. But of that, about $400,000 is a contingency because we have not spent any of our contingency. And the rest of it is some underspending some of the other categories. Yeah, Tom, you have a question? You're on mute though.
Sorry, we had fire truck go by. I understood that the obligation to Conway for the 10,000 acre feet is an escalating price over the 27-year term or something like that. So how come we're not seeing a reflected increase in our budget for the cost of the Conway water right?
That is not included in the agency budget.
Okay.
That's handled directly by the cities.
I see. I didn't realize that. Thank you for explaining.
Thanks,
So
Tom.
because the reason I'm asking, of course, is the issue of water fees. You know, it's going to be a live one in both our communities, and I was happy to see the budget being so close, thinking, oh, maybe we don't need to raise our water rates. So you're going to tell me otherwise, I'm sure.
Probably, yeah. I mean, there's inflation. Electricity, chemicals is going up a lot, but I think overall Woodland's water rates probably won't be too. We're not putting any major capital projects going forward.
Okay.
I wouldn't expect anything too crazy.
Thank you. I think as a board member, I think we'd all appreciate it if you alert us when we're looking at the need to do that, so we can have plenty of notice. Thank you.
Next slide. So continue to look at, I kind of covered some of these already. I think I do that every year, actually. Our overall O&M budget is about $200,000 higher than last year. Mainly it's due to electricity cost increases. That's about a $300,000 add. I think if it weren't for that, we would be very much the same, if not slightly under. Our oversight budget is dropping by about 52,000. That's just a refinement. We never really use the budget category fully in those items, but we may need to, so we carry them forward. Cutting them back a little bit every year is what we've been doing. The water supply, permanent water supply budget is about $21,000 lower. It's really about the same, but slightly lower, mainly due to being near completion with the water supply risk evaluation. Agency admin budget is about $16,000 lower, primarily because we're about complete with the urban water management plan. We did carry some money forward to the next fiscal year for the urban water management plan, just in case there's any refinements that the board requests when we finalize that document. O&M contingency is slightly higher, and that's because the O&M category is slightly higher. But again, that's something that we roll over year by year. We don't, and we have not spent it to date. Right now, we do not have any plans to spend it. And if we ever did, if something ever came up that we would need to spend it on, we would inform the board immediately, and then follow up with, how much the dollar amount is and what happened, and then obtain formal board approval before we really did it. And SRF debt and reserve payments are the same. So those are the same every year. Next slide. So how this works in terms of revenue, City of Woodland revenue requirement is $10.725 million, Davis $7.4 million, UC Davis about $460,000, and already 2035 $350,000 for a total of 18.95. This is $400,000 and change less than our budget, and that's because we are not charging the partners for the contingency. We already have the contingency funds in-house. We will just roll that over to next year. We don't charge the partners for that anymore. Next slide. So the two recommended actions coming up next is adopt the budget for next fiscal year and then approve the associated consultant contracts. These are the consultant contracts with West Yost for ongoing engineering services to the agency, and at ESA for continued environmental services. We test them with up to 3 EIR addendums for water purchase agreements, because we've already just done one of them. That's on the agenda for today as well. So 2 more after this one. And then with BSK for, or not BBK, sorry. I'm messing up a little bit, with Ryan's group for attorney services. Any questions on the budget?
Tim, a question just about procedure. So this is item 3, which is the budget adoption, and then item 4 is the consultant contracts. Do you want to? I'm fine taking that up as sort of one action from the board, unless my colleagues think differently. Let me just check in. Michelle, do we have any public comment on either items 3 or 4?
We do not have any public comments on those items.
Okay, so then I'll bring it back to board members for any questions that folks have or comments at this time. Not seeing a lot of action. Thank you for the very straightforward presentation, of course, for all the work that went into this. So with that, I will happily entertain a motion. This would be, the proposed motion would be to incorporate items 3 and 4, adopting the 21-22 budget and approving the associated consultant contracts. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved by Chapman.
Stallard seconds.
Moved by Josh, seconded by Tom. Any further questions or comments from anyone? Michelle, will you please read the roll?
Chair Will Arnold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Richard Landsberg.
Aye.
Director Tom Stallard,
Aye.
and Director Josh Chapman.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. That will move us on to item 5, a public hearing for the Urban Water Management Plan and the Water Shortage Contingency Plan, or the WHOOP and the WHISK.
Yeah, Monique Day from West Joseph is here, and she will go through the presentation on the Urban Water Management Plan. This is the we did try to get out of the agency having to do this ourselves for the last go around 5 years ago, because the agency we only send water to Woodland-Davis and UC-Davis, and Woodland and Davis both have their own urban water management plans, which I know you sat through these presentations just a couple of weeks ago. So this is another one relatively similar to what you've already just heard. So with that, we'll turn it over to Monique to do the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, okay.
Yes, thank you, Monique.
Go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so just a quick overview. I do know that most of you are already familiar with urban water management plans, but as a wholesale agency, the Woodland-Davis Clean Water Agency needs to also complete an urban water management plan. So it's a long-range planning document that's required by the state. And so the planning horizon is through 2045 for this 2020 plan. And these 2020 plans are due to the state by tomorrow. So that is part of why we are having our meeting today. Make sure it gets
Vote aye right now and be done.
yeah. And we're I think well, I'll just read through these bullets here. It's a planning tool to ensure adequate availability and reliability of water supplies to meet current and projected future demands. And let's go to the next slide. It's written into the water code that agencies that supply at least 3,000 customers or at least 3,000 acre feet per year are required to do these. They're required every 5 years. Our last one was actually done in 2017, because when you start up your water supply as an agency, it's required to be submitted within 1 year after delivery starts. So I think our deadline was, June of 2017. So we got ours done February 2017 last time. But then they want you to get on the cycle with all of the other plans in the state. So we are actually doing ours sooner than the 5 years, but now we'll be on the same program as the cities for now on. And one of the key reasons to continue to do these is it keeps you eligible for state funding. So we want to maintain our eligibility in case there are reasons why you want to apply for state grants or loans. And yes, the agency delivered over 19,000 acre feet of water last year, so definitely required to submit these. Next slide. And so we looked at growth projections. So we looked at population projections and then the demands that are associated with those. And as you know, there's the water supply risk and evaluation, alternatives evaluation that is ongoing right now. And so in that, that study had already projected growth for Woodland-Davis and UC-Davis through 2040 and then through 2030 and through 2040. So we use the same numbers in that plan. And just note that these numbers are slightly different than what appear in the city's urban water management plans. And that has to do with when this water supply risk evaluation was started. But anyway, using these numbers, we just did a straight line projection through 2045, starting with the 2020 actual data and then projected through 2045. So you can see that on the next slide. The actual amount delivered, 19,779 acre feet in 2020. And then here's our projections. There's a certain projection through 2030, and then we have a different line for projection through 2045. So I think these are probably a little bit more ambitious than what is in the city's plans. But we, as the agency, want to make sure that the customers have adequate supplies. So this is what we're using for planning for the urban plan. Go to the next slide. And in addition to the urban water management plan, another requirement is this new water shortage contingency plan. We had to do one of these in our last urban plan as well. But the requirements for these water shortage contingency plans are now a little bit more robust. And so what we chose to do this time around is make the water shortage contingency plan an actual appendix to the urban plan so that it's a separate document. And if we ever need to make any updates to it, it can be adopted separate from the urban plan. So it's included as an appendix to the plan. It outlines 5 different stages of shortages. So if there's a shortage of water supplies up to 10% and then 20%, and it conforms to what the required shortages are from the state. And actually, I stand corrected, it's actually 6 stages of shortages that we include in this water shortage contingency plan. And then let's go to the next slide. So really the conclusion of the urban plan is that it demonstrates that what we know already, that the agency supplies, they're not adequate to meet all of the water demands that are coming from the project participants. And the cities know this, and that's why they have groundwater and ASR water to supplement the supplies that they can receive from the agency. And that's also why the agency is working on this water supply risk and alternatives evaluation. So it tells us what we already know, but it documents that, and it acknowledges that the agency would want to look at purchasing or leasing supplemental surface water supplies from other water right holders. So it's a good documentation of the situation that we're already aware of. And then the next slide, I believe, shows our calendar. And I apologize, I didn't update this from when we thought the meeting was going to be on June 17th. So otherwise, these dates are current. So we did public notices about this public hearing, as well as the potential adoption of the urban plan and water shortage contingency plan. We put that in the Davis Enterprise, and actually Michelle did another notice this past week for the updated hearing and adoption date. So we, all of the agencies listed received the 60-day notice of preparation letters, as well as notices of public hearing. So we've done our due diligence with notifications. We're doing this public hearing now. You know, if the board chooses to adopt this plan today, then we will be able to submit the final urban plan and water shortage contingency plan to DWR by tomorrow. And it's an electronic submittal. So we pretty much have it ready to go. We've got a final PDF ready. And if there are changes, we certainly can make those changes, but we are prepared to submit this by tomorrow and meet that deadline. And then within 30 days after this adoption, we will get you guys hard copies if you would like, and get it submitted to the state library and to the county so that it'll be available for public review. And we'll also give Michelle a copy to keep in the agency's office. And the next slide just shows our recommendations to the board. First, it's to adopt a resolution approving the updated water shortage contingency plan, as well as adopting a resolution to approve the 2020 urban water management plan. And then just to direct staff and the consultant to submit the adopted plans to DWR and the state library and the county. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions from anyone? I thank you, Monique, for that presentation. I think that was very straightforward. Do we have any public comment?
None.
Okay, so we can take these together as well. The action items are listed on the agenda as items 6 and 7. That would be the adoption of the water shortage contingency plan as item 6, and the adoption of the urban water management plan as item 7. And of course, implied in there was we would actually do something with those and submit them for approval. So do I hear a motion to that effect?
Landsberg will move it, both of them.
Moved by Rich. I'll go ahead and
Stellar
second.
seconds.
Oh, I'll take that one. I'm seconding that one.
Okay, you can
Still my
have
right. I still have rights to second things, even though I'm the chair. So it's been moved by Rich, seconded by Will. Any further comment on this? Not hearing any. Michelle, will you please call the roll?
I will. Director Josh Chapman, we'll do you first.
Aye.
Director Tom Stallard.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rich Landsberg,
Aye.
and Chair Will Arnold.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you again, Monique. So that moves us on to item 8. This would be election of the board chair and vice chair for the next fiscal year. I will note that in the past, the sitting vice chair has become the chair, and then the person who is not the chair from the other jurisdiction would be the vice chair.
Chair Arnold,
Yes,
I
Tom?
respectfully nominate Rich Landsberg to succeed you as chair, and I respectfully nominate Josh Chapman to be our new vice chair.
That's what I was getting at. You were far more. I will second that. I think it's fair that I second that as well. Josh or Rich and Josh, do you accept these nominations?
Rich will go first, say yes.
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate that. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Any comment on this or questions or any public comment? I'd be very surprised if we have public comment on this.
No public comment received.
Okay, with that, let's go ahead and vote.
Director Tom Stallard,
Aye.
Chair Will Arnold
Aye.
for the last time, I think. Director Josh Chapman,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Richard Landsberg.
Aye.
So I'll finish out this meeting.
Yes.
That's okay. I mean, I'd be very happy to turn the reins over, but I'll finish up this meeting, and then at our next meeting, Rich, I will let you do your best or your worst, whatever you choose. Thank you both, but congratulations. I know this, given the work I did even before I was on the council to get Davis across the finish line to join this water project, it is and has been very meaningful for me to be now the chair of the water agency. So with that, we'll move on to item 9. This would be the EIR addendum number 12 for the water lease agreement with the Nature Conservancy. Tim?
Yeah, I can discuss this briefly. So this is also the subject of a closed session item we have later on today, and then also a special board meeting we have after this meeting. We had started the CEQA document, the EIR addendum, we're up to number 12 now, for transfer of water from the Nature Conservancy to Woodland-Davis Clean Water Agency. We started this a little bit speculatively while had been still working with Bureau of Reclamation to get them to acknowledge our ability to do this agreement. And we can talk more about that a little bit later. So the EIR addendum actually is for transfer of up to 2,500 acre feet. The actual agreement is for a bit less than that. So we are covered in case we can work to increase the water supply a bit. So it's a pretty straightforward agreement. It's the addendum. It's very similar to the last 5 that we did in the last couple of years. That I can take any questions on it.
Are there any questions from board members? Okay, any public comment?
None received.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion to approve this EIR addendum.
Stallard will move.
Landsberg will second.
Moved by Tom, seconded by Rich. Michelle, will you read the roll, please?
Yes, Chair Will Arnold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Richard Landsberg,
Aye.
Director Tom Stallard,
Aye.
Director Josh Chapman.
Aye.
Thank you all. So that's our last regular item on this agenda. So let me clarify what our move is now. We're going to move into closed session, and then which will consist logistically of turning off the recording. Will we need to do anything else in terms of change the Zoom room or anything like that?
Yes, so I'm going to stop the recording now.
Okay, well, we're going to
Oh, wait.
adjourn to closed session. That's
Okay. There we go. Let me figure out how to, give me just 1 second to change my screen here.
no problem. Take your time.
Stop. There it is. Pause.
Thank you.
Kim was the only one in the waiting room.
Got it. Well, welcome back to our studio audience. We have adjourned the closed session, and there is nothing to report, no action taken in the closed session. So that will move us on to item 12, which is the long-range board calendar. I see that our next meeting date will be September the 16th. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any items for discussion on the long-range calendar? I mean, that is to say, is there anything anyone would like to add to this conversation?
Sure, Will, I have a question for you.
Go ahead, Rich.
Can we do this next one in person?
We should
Interesting.
be able to. We were, when the meeting was originally scheduled for June 17th, we had not received guidance from the state on can you have open meetings. What happens if three board members say in person, one says they want to be on Zoom? How do we handle that? So we, at the advice of Dick Shanahan, we decided just to do it on Zoom. This one was kind of a carryover just because we set up the last one that way. I think for September, we can be in person.
Fascinating.
If somebody wants to remain on Zoom, we'll have to set up how to do the hybrid meeting thing. But
Okay, that's a good question, Rich.
So the next meeting will be at the Davis City Hall.
Yep.
Okay.
Has Woodland gone back to in-person out of curiosity?
Our mayor's here. I think answer that.
We're planning to do it in September, Will.
Okay. We don't yet have a date set, but
Well, let's just say we don't have it firm
Sure.
either. September is the tentative plan.
sure. Okay. Any other board comments for the good of the order? Hearing none, I will go ahead and adjourn this regularly scheduled board meeting. Our next regular meeting is September 16th, as we previously discussed. And we will await further guidance, but if it is in person, it will be at the Davis City Hall. So this meeting is adjourned, and I will now open our special meeting. Is that good enough, or do we need to do anything else?
yeah, I think that's good enough.
Okay. So this is the special meeting of the Woodland-Davis Clean Water Agency. I recognize that all board members are here, and so that's me calling roll. Can I entertain a motion to approve the special meeting agenda?
So moved.
Moved
I
by
have a
Tom.
quick question. Michelle, did we notice this special meeting for a particular time?
We noticed it for 4:45, but also it had the comment or directly following the
Okay.
other
Okay.
board meeting. So I don't know if we need to wait or not. Because that was your comment in it. So I did it exactly what you said.
Okay.
Yeah, it does indicate on the agenda that the time is approximate and that it will be after the regular meeting. So
Okay. Thank you.
I feel good about it. I'll also note that Matt Dulcich is here representing UC Davis. So I do have a motion from Tom to for the agenda. Is there a second?
Rich will second.
Thank you, Rich. Moved by Tom, seconded by Rich. Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Director Josh Chapman,
Aye.
Director Tom Stellard,
Aye.
Vice Chair Richard Landsberg,
Aye.
and Chair Will Arnold.
Aye. So we have an agenda. Thank you. At this time, is there any member of the public that would like to make a comment about an item not on this agenda?
None received.
So I'll close general public comment. That'll move us on to agency business, item 1. This is to consider adopting a resolution approving a water lease agreement with the Nature Conservancy for the purchase of supplemental water. Tim?
Thank you. Joining us today is Jeannie Brantigan from the Nature Conservancy. As you know, this is a historically dry year, and our water rights this year are curtailed in a couple different ways. Our primary water right, which is subject to the Term 91 curtailment. That curtailment started April 29th this year. We use our CVP water right during the curtailment, but that water right is cut back by 25% because it is a declared Shasta critical year this year. The results of the combination of a longer duration curtailment and the Shasta critical year means that the agency is currently delivering roughly 60% of the water supply that we delivered last year, and something like a third of the partner's total demands at this point. So agency staff have been looking for additional water supplies for the past several months. And we have been working with the Nature Conservancy also for the past several months to work through some regulatory issues. And we were through that. We weren't quite able to achieve all that both parties really want to do to regulatory issues, but we do have an opening. And I think the agency staff are very excited about this opportunity to work with the Nature Conservancy. I think it's a great water supply. The Nature Conservancy is a great organization. And we do see the potential for this to work out to be a longer term agreement for the agency and help us with our, ultimately, this agreement by itself is really just a summer water supply agreement, but we do see that there is potential to help us with our November to December risk in water supply. With that, I can turn it over to Jeannie. I'll be relatively short with my comments because I know the board is aware of this agreement and the work we have been doing in the background. I'll turn it over to Jeannie to speak for the Nature Conservancy.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, we're just really thrilled that this is moving forward and that you're meeting about this today. And when we first acquired our water rights on Mill Creek, this tributary to the Sacramento River, we intended to leave them in stream in Mill Creek to help protect one of the last natural runs of salmon. And that's really what we've been doing for the last 15 years. But we also wanted to demonstrate how water rights holders on these systems could lease their water downstream. And in the course of that, provide this flow for salmon along the way. So this is really resulting in a market-based and truly multi-benefit project. And this transaction with Woodland-Davis will we hope deliver on just that, providing this water to salmon and providing Woodland-Davis with some additional supply to help make up for the dry year curtailments that you're experiencing. And additionally, the revenue from this lease will go toward paying off a loan on one of the water rights that we acquired, and that's helping to make all of this possible. So I want to thank Tim, Stan, and Ryan for being so open to this idea and persevering through some of these challenges and hoops that we had to jump through to get to this point, and also for being just great humans to work with. So we look forward to hopefully signing this agreement and exploring new opportunities this fall. Thank you all for your commitment to sustainable use of water.
Thank you for this opportunity. So we need comments from board members. Tom, looks like you have a comment, but you're on mute.
I think we've had a great briefing on this. We couldn't be more pleased than to be working with the Nature Conservancy. We value you as an organization. You have a fabulous reputation, and we know that your motives in terms of the use of this water are first to take care of environmental needs, and then second to make beneficial use of the water. And we're in need water to use beneficially. So it's a match made in heaven, as they say. Mr. Chair, I'm ready for a motion anytime anyone wants to present one.
Sure, at this time I will entertain a motion. Oh, first let me check for public comment. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment received.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion for this item.
Rich will move it.
Moved by Rich. Is there a second?
Second by Chapman.
Seconded by Josh. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Michelle, will you please read the roll?
Certainly. Chair Will Arnold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Richard Landsberg,
Aye.
Director Tom Stallard,
Aye.
and Director Josh Chapman.
Aye.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're very excited for this partnership.
Yes, thank you. We will let the plant know to increase. We are actually going to be starting this delivery tonight. At 12:01 a.m. we will be increasing production at the water treatment plant.
Let me get some.
Yeah, let it flow.
We're not waiting.
Very good. Well, is there anything else for the good of the order today?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you all. I know this was a lot, but it is. Michelle, go ahead.
Oh, you can, my screen's not sharing. Yes, I just want to say that I'll be sending you the resolutions right after the meeting so we can get those back for everything to get submitted tomorrow.
Okay,
From earlier.
I'll make
Thank
sure
you.
I'll make sure to get my pen
Thank you.
out for signatures. Okay, well then, with that, I will adjourn this special meeting. Once again, our next regular board meeting is September 16th.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all. Have
Thank
a good
you.
day.
Bye now. Bye, Deanie.
Bye.